What is it that the Islamicists and jihadists and the so-called Islamofascists really want out of their so-called war of terrorism? What they really want is to reestablish something that existed a long time ago, the Caliphate of Islam. Muhammad, unlike any of the other founders of great religions, Buddha, Moses, Jesus, was not just a religious figure and a prophet. He became the ruler of an expanding empire, and more than that, a commanding general of conquering armies. Allah dictated the Quran to Muhammad in a small tribal area around Mecca in Arabia. And after Muhammad had founded the beginnings of Islam, the pagans there, perhaps in association with some of the Jewish tribespeople and Christians as well, forced him to flee to Medina with his followers. And then the Meccans went to attack him and wipe out the new religion of Medina. And Muhammad was forced, in effect, to become not just a tribal leader, but a general of a defending army, and a very successful one, who defeated the Meccans and went back to Mecca in triumph. And from there, Islam spread into a unified Saudi Arabia and far, far, far beyond. So Muhammad was a general, a prophet, and a ruler. In effect, a king, a commander of the army, and the head of religion, all rolled into one. Unlike any other prophet or king or religious leader in the history of the world. And so Islam, from the very beginning, was a unifying force of the scattered tribes of Arabia, and it continued with Muhammad and after Muhammad in his successors, who were generally called caliphs, or in some cases imams, as kings, religious leaders, generals of a conquering religion that spread throughout Arabia into North Africa, as far as India. And the concept was the Dar al-Islam, the lens of Islam. So from the very beginning of Islam and Islamic culture, at least from North Africa all the way through into India, Dar al-Islam, the concept of a worldwide transnational community of Muslims, ruled not just religiously but temporally from an Islamic center geographically set in Mecca and in Arabia, but ruled as a transnational entity where being a Muslim was far more important to one's identity than whatever nation state you might belong to. And the nation state was far of secondary importance for 1,000 years, even up until the collapse of the Ottoman Empire in the 20th century. And so that was the Caliphate. Look at this map, stretching from Spain in the west all the way to the borders of India beyond in the east, from Central Asia into close to sub-Saharan Africa and all of Arabia. One Islamic transnational entity ruled by the successors of Muhammad, by the caliphs. And this is the golden age, the lost golden age of Islam, that Muslims all over the world look back to with nostalgia and longing. Now here is a map of a new caliphate as the more moderate jihadis and Islamicists would like to see it restored. Curious isn't it, how it looks like the original Caliphate of the long gone golden age. This reborn traditional Caliphate is probably a dream held by most Muslims, at least most Arab Muslims, Muslims of the Maghreb, and Pakistanis, who do not support terrorist means of bringing about. Not a conquering caliphate, but a caliphate that more or less embraces Dar al-Islam, the lands mostly occupied by Muslims, as a transnational entity. And this is a valid dream of a golden age, and particularly wouldn't be any threat to anyone else as long as no one was opposing it, as long as it didn't mean war. But of course, we know it has meant war, because there are those who see it as a world war for the domination of the planet. Islam versus the West. Islam versus modernity. A united caliphate of Dar al-Islam versus the idea of the nation state. As the warrior aspect of Islam evolved from a purely defensive fight at Medina, won by Muhammad, so now has what people consider their Islamic or Arabic grievances against the West transmogrified itself from a battle for freedom from the Soviet Union fought by Muslims in support of the United States in Afghanistan into a world war against the great Satan as far as the other people are concerned. And just as we were absolutists in World War II, and so were the Nazis, so are they. In their heart of hearts, they, like Napoleon or Hitler or Stalin, would like to see their cause, their ideology, and their faith conquer the entire world. Look at these maps. These are fantasies. Europe, conquered by Islam and carved up into sultanates by the middle of this century. The flag of Islam over Eurasia, and then the green spread in 100 years to conquer the entire world for the Islam of Muhammad and Allah. This, I believe, is where Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda are really at. This is what they really believe in their heart of hearts. This is their absolutist goal. Osama bin Laden considers himself a mystic, visionary Muslim and a great general, just like Muhammad. Perhaps if he smokes too much of the keef that's supporting part of his army, he might even fancy that he is the Mahdi, the chosen one. He who will come out of nowhere to lead Islam to victory and bring about rebirth of the lost golden age. And it sounds crazy, but Osama the Gun has a tactical plan, I do believe, that could really make it work.